you know the personalities and the vibes in this White House better than most, and I'm wondering what's really going on here, because the president has decided to pull a 180 on the Epstein files, now urging Republicans to vote for the release. Is this what you do when you're out of options?
Well, I think that what has happened in the last 2 weeks or so is that the Trump White House has just been put on their back feet. They were riding high this whole year. I think these off-cycle elections, particularly the gubernatorial races in Virginia and New Jersey, where Democrats won, really sort of pierced the bubble that everything was going well for them. And they really have had to rethink their message on the economy, which has always really been his strong point. And with Epstein, too. I mean, this has just been a drip, drip, drip story for them. It's not going away. We're seeing Republicans starting to peel off from him. And so I think that, he did an about face and completely pivoted his whole stance on the Epstein files yesterday in Florida. As he was coming back, he just said, fine, release them. Now, there's still many steps to go. I mean, the House still has to vote to release them, then the Senate does. So this is not a story that's done by any means, but I think that they did this so that, some of the story would just go away.
So, Nancy, let's talk a little bit more about that 180, because as you mentioned, there's been a drip of Republican support going away beyond just the MAGA base, which remains, furious, as we see from Marjorie Taylor Greene and others. But what are some other reasons, perhaps, that the president decided to take this 180? If you get inside his head, or if you were advising him, what would be the other reasons that you should just go ahead and let it go and push these Republicans to vote for the release?
Well, because I think he wants the story to end, and then he doesn't want there to be more defections. We've seen Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Nancy Mace, women who have always been staunch advocates of him sort of turning against him on this, in addition to people who have long been critics like Representative Thomas Massie. And so I think that he's worried about just keeping the coalition together among Republicans, because there has been so much fracturing lately over, the party's stance on Israel, the party's stance towards Nick Fuente, the party's stance on a number of foreign policy issues. And I think heading into the midterms, where Trump really does not want to lose the House, largely out of reasons of self-preservation, because he does not want to be impeached again, it's going to be very important that he keeps this Republican coalition together.
The president on Truth Social says House Republicans should vote to release the Epstein files because we have nothing to hide and it's time to move on. Going on to write, the House Oversight Committee can have whatever they are legally entitled to, in all caps, I don't care, exclamation point. We remember as well, the president directed the Department of Justice to investigate Bill Clinton, Reid Hoffman, other Democrats he says were actually playing games with Jeffrey Epstein. Is that the calculation here, Nancy? I've heard a couple of people say this already today. Go ahead, vote to release the Epstein files. When that happens, the Department of Justice says, well, we've got an ongoing investigation.
Yeah, that's a whole nother hurdle that we haven't even talked about. And Pam Bondi, who has been sort of working with Trump or a Trump ally for years, they go way back in Florida. She goes way back with Trump's chief of staff, Susie Wiles. She is going to do what he wants. And so even if Congress does sort of do its own 180 and really, release something and do something that's potentially damaging to Trump, he has the backstop of the Justice Department.
Wow. So this is never coming out. Is that fair to say?
I mean, maybe. I think that they're just really so much on the defensive at this point, on the economy, on the Epstein file. The MAGA coalition is not sticking together. That this is just, there's a number. This is just one of many data points.
Is there potentially also, he's calculating the MAGA base. They have other things that they've worried about, and we spoke to it earlier. Venezuela, all these foreign entanglements, trade deals, or he just wants to kind of redirect their focus on something he's doing for them. Is that possible? A political move?
Sure, I think that that's part of it. I just think he doesn't want this to be sort of an ongoing storyline.